Everyone in the world wants to attain happiness. There is a sense of lack or unfulfillment, and people seek means such as objects, activities, and relationships to seek a sense of fulfillment or happiness. Sage Ramana guides that happiness in true sense comes when one realizes that their true nature is pure awareness and consciously lives as that. Pure awareness means with which one becomes conscious of the objects or state of mind. If pure awareness had been absent, no one will know what is present around them or the things that they experience. Sage guides that a seeker needs to shift their attention from the object to pure awareness and abide in that. In other words, things can produce only temporary happiness. True happiness comes when one abides as pure awareness, because pure awareness is the source of all activities and objects. Sage Ramana referred to pure awareness as self. This satsang explains why a human being remains unfulfilled with the things that they experience. How eternal fulfillment comes when one realizes that all objects are none but self and they abide in that. Self in its natural being is pure potential. Every entity and the objects, activities, and states of mind that the entity experiences all arise from self. Self is the source of all unique qualities, objective or subjective. Objective qualities are attributes that are tangible. For example, red color of an apple. Everyone knows what red color is like or what is a round shape. We learned when we were a child. We also know what it means when somebody refers to sunlight and wetness of water. On the other hand, subjective qualities are intangible attributes. Although all know what intangible attributes are, for example, what excitement is, um, for example, thrill is also intangible, but to some extent, intangible attributes depend on an individual's perception also. For example, we all understand what relaxation means. Some people get relaxation in meditation. Some get relaxation in sleep. Some feel relaxed in nature and some in physical activity. The nature of relaxation will vary depending on the type of object or activity pursued and how much of that is used. What duration of sleep gets relaxation depends on the individual response. Therefore, the point is that pure awareness has the potential of producing all this variety of entities and experiences. But look carefully. Pure awareness is infinite and timeless. How will awareness express the roundness of an apple or the red color of the apple? How will it express how a ripe and crunchy apple looks or tastes, or what it feels if one bites an overripe apple? How will awareness express the experience of relaxation, cheerfulness, or agony? Awareness cannot express its unique attributes without creating an apple. Awareness needs to manifest as sun, to express the light and heat of sun, needs to manifest as a bird, to express the flying motion of a bird, as a human, to express the intellectual ability of the human, as a child, to express the innocence of the child. And children may be different in habits, such as eating habits. Some may be fussy eaters, and some may eat food well. Some may like a particular toy. Therefore, awareness exists as multiple forms to express its diverse attributes. Also, awareness manifests as form to watch the attributes. A person eats the apple to experience the attributes of crunchiness and deliciousness of the apple. When a parent watches their newborn baby, it is none but self is experiencing the joy of watching the newborn. So, friends, this is the purpose of manifestation. Awareness needs to express its diverse attributes and watch the attributes. So, one form manifests to express the attribute, and other forms may manifest to watch the attribute. Also, you see, any of the unique attributes of self require a limitation in space or time. There cannot be an eternal crunchiness in the apple. Uh, to know what crunchiness feels like, one must know what staleness is. That's how we distinguish crunchiness from staleness. We will not experience joy if we don't know misery. The knowledge of attributes could also be gained through an external source, such as watching a video or reading a story, if one did not have that particular experience, such as misery. However, when an object or entity is manifested, a game starts to happen. The manifested entity has an I thought to express or watch the attributes. All attributes are experienced with respect to an individual being. The experience cannot be for all manifestation. A parent loves to watch the newborn because there is a sense of individuality that the newborn belongs to them. Every form, human, bird, fly, mosquito, has a sense of individual existence. Every entity says, I am. I am is the expression of the manifested form that it exists. This is the first thing that the individual entity expresses when it becomes aware of its existence. In this way, the individual self gets entangled with the I thought. Under the influence of I thought, it develops a false identification with the body mind and forgets its true nature. The manifested entity is governed by physical, astral, and mental planes. In order to experience the attributes, we need thought, emotion, memory, and senses to perceive an object or experience a state. In other words, self requires physical, astral, and mental influences to taste what it is. But in doing so, self gets restricted. It cannot remain in its purity in the form of the manifested entity. The false identification with body mind perpetuates the body and results in unending births. But see, the self in its pure nature that is underlying and supporting the ego personality knows that it is infinite and timeless. It is absolute happiness. Self loves it in its absolute nature. Although for a while, self remains as mind and it experiences the objects and activities, self wants to find what it essentially is. In the form of mind, self gets a temporary happiness only. For example, it gets some happiness in the objects, such as a movie. And after the movie is over, it reverts, as the happiness obtained in watching the movie is not permanent. Again, there is a lack, and the search continues for peace or happiness in worldly pursuits. If we were not self, we would have been fulfilled with what the physical, astral, and lower mental planes offer to us. Since we are not a person, there is always a lack of happiness. This is because the self in us is wanting to get freedom from the I thought. It is yearning to realize itself, to discover it, and to remain as it is. The game turns into a battle of two opposing forces. The ego mode of awareness wants to stay as an individual self, and the pure awareness self wants to return to its originality. But self is restricted by the person in the manifested form. The way to return to the original nature is that the person nourishes the self. So we need to pay attention to self and distance from the person. Sage Ramana teaches that an intense inquiry is the way to realize the self. Inquiry means asking questions like, am I aware of myself in truth? What I am really? Am I this mortal body? When we concentrate on self, we realize the truth of our existence, that we are not mind. We are aware of mind. We are not thought. We are aware of thoughts. Thought comes and goes, but we remain. We don't vanish when thought vanished. In this way, a distance occurs within you, between you and your mind. How to find the awareness self? By paying attention to it. We do not notice, and it remains hidden under the layers of mind, like the core of an onion remains covered by the multiple layers. These are layers of ignorance. We have forgotten what we essentially are and have mistaken ourselves instead for a collection of all these experiences that captivate our true self. As a result, the true self remains absent from our attention. It is due to this lack of attention or knowledge of what really we are, we think we are mind, which is a bucket of experiences of thoughts, emotions, etc. Just like we see the movie screen not as a blank screen, but in our perception, screen is perceived as a picture. Likewise, awareness self is seen by us not as pure awareness, but as the manifested objects. However, pure awareness self in us has that purity present in it, which is although veiled by the noises of mind, but it is still there. Once self gets a bit of release from the mind, it concentrates on itself. It pulls the ego back to the source, to its natural state. That pure awareness self longs for peace and urges the ego to discover its purity. Ramana Maharshi says ego in its purity is self and can be realized in the gap between two thoughts, as then it is not contaminated with any objects of experience. Our attention to awareness self unfolds that we are pure and eternal being, and there is only one self, that is the self of himself, herself, yourself, and myself. There is no other. Our careful attention to awareness unfolds the truth. They say self is silent and invisible, but look carefully as awareness self is clearly shining as the substratum of all experience. And if you pay attention to it, you can see uh, even when it is silent and invisible. Somebody says, I am sad. Look, what that means. Where is the sadness? That individual is sadness, or they are experiencing sadness. Clearly, the individual is not sadness, as they don't vanish when the sadness vanishes. Let's say someone experiences joy. Joy cannot be felt forever. Joy will stay for some time and come to an end. Sadness or joy are temporary. The awareness with which one is conscious of the sadness or joy is permanent. Awareness of experience does not vanish. The object of experience vanishes. You are this awareness of experience. Pure awareness self in us is aware of all experience, such as whether we are depressed, lonely, sad, blissful, anxious, jealous, or excited. The awareness self knows all these experiences. How? Self is present as a background of all experience, just like a screen remains present throughout the movie. Self inquiry means investigating what you really are. You are not the feeling, you are aware of the feeling. Whatever you think, feel, perceive, or do, you are aware of that. You are not that. Thoughts, emotions, perceptions have changed countless times in our lives, but the awareness self with which they are experienced has remained the same throughout our life. We need to concentrate on that background that is underlying every experience, that which is ever present, and every experience is passing over that awareness like clouds, like a movement that occurs and then ends. Just as the screen is overlooked. For example, when we want to send an SMS, we type text on the screen of the phone, but we overlook the screen. When we watch a movie, we overlook the screen on which the movie comes as we remain captivated by the movie. Similarly, the awareness self remains unnoticed due to our concentration on the objects of experience. Sage says, Brahman or the self is like the screen, and the world is like the pictures on it. You can see the picture only so long as there is a screen. Once we pay attention to the screen of self, it will be impossible to not notice the screen. Rather, screen of awareness self will attract more attention than the pictures appearing on it. You will be aware that the awareness self is the truth of all objects you experience, gross and subtle. You will realize that without awareness, no experience can be experienced. It is present like a common element or the basis of all objects. It does not require a lot of effort to see the screen when watching a movie. You just need a bit of attention to become aware that there is a screen behind the pictures. Likewise, it just requires a bit of attention to realize that whatever we see, hear, taste, experience, that awareness self is omnipresent in all. And due to the presence of the awareness self, the body mind is conscious of the objects. Attention to self means noticing the awareness self as the prime element, recognizing that it is the source, and bring that to the front. Make that the focus of experience and make the objects of experience as secondary elements in the experience. Then the objects like thoughts, feelings, sensations, etc., will recede to the background. Screen will come to the foreground and images will recede to the background. Self will come to the front and ego personality will recede to the back. So, friends, the most important point is to recognize our true self, respect it, and love it. I am aware of my own self. This gives strength to the overlooked self. This will peel off the layers of the mind and bring the self to the front to illuminate the existence. And that is the return to the great calm that every one of us wants. Thank you, everyone.